When you hear the name Alexander Graham Bell, your mind instantly goes to one thing, right? The telephone. But in this explainer, we're going to dive way past the surface legacy of this household name. We'll explore the brilliant, eccentric, and honestly super complex reality underneath. We're going to see why that single invention barely scratches the surface of his life's work, and uncover the incredible depths of a man who changed the world in more ways than you'd probably ever guess.
So, let's kick things off with what has to be the ultimate irony. The man who literally gave the world the telephone actually considered it an irritating intrusion. No joke. Despite changing global communication forever, he flat out refused to have a functioning telephone in his own study. It seems almost impossible to believe, doesn't it? The father of modern telecommunications wanted absolutely nothing to do with his own world-altering creation while he was trying to work.
Now you might be wondering, why the refusal? Well, as his wife Mabel noted, he desperately needed to be alone with his thoughts without the outside world constantly ringing him up. He just needed uninterrupted silence. But actually, it goes a lot deeper than that. It came down to how he viewed himself. Right up to his dying days, he didn't view his primary identity as an inventor. He stated simply, and incredibly proudly, "I am a teacher of the deaf." This sets up a really fascinating clash at the heart of his life. On one side, you have the inventor of the telephone, this monumental global title that history basically forced upon him. And on the other, you have teacher of the deaf, the deeply personal, lifelong vocation he cherished above everything else. It was this identity that fundamentally drove his everyday actions and his entire philosophy on life.
Part 1. The Roots of Sound, a Family Obsession. To truly get Bell, we have to look at where he came from. He was deeply affected by his mother, who began losing her hearing when he was just 12 years old. Plus, he was born into a family completely obsessed with the study of speech and elocution. And that genius for sound showed itself incredibly early. Working from a German book on automatons, a teenage Bell and his brother actually built a remarkably lifelike mechanical head to simulate a human voice. It was a totally hands-on project. His brother built the throat, Bell meticulously constructed the realistic skull, and by using a bellows to force air through an artificial larynx, the machine could distinctly utter the word mama. Talk about a crazy teenage science project, right?
But wait, his playful, hands-on obsession with acoustics didn't stop there. He actually manipulated the vocal cords of his own Skye Terrier, Truve. By teaching the dog to growl and manually moving its lips, Bell produced sounds that convinced bewildered visitors he had trained a talking dog to ask, "How are you, Grandmama?" I mean, just imagine the absolute shock of walking into the Bell household and being greeted by a supposedly talking terrier.
Part 2. Racing to the Patent, the Frantic Spring of 1876. So Bell's intense, lifelong work on sound inevitably collided with the booming telegraph industry. This sparked an intense, high-stakes race to secure what would become the most valuable patent in history. And the spring of 1876 was just frantic. On February 14th, Bell's lawyer filed a patent application on the exact same morning his rival, Elisha Gray, filed a formal notice of intent for a similar idea. The timeline here moved at lightning speed. In less than a month, on March 7th, Bell's patent was officially approved. Just 3 days later, he proved his concept by transmitting intelligible speech to his assistant with those famous words, "Mr. Watson, come here."
But, that massive success brought fierce, relentless competition. The Bell Telephone Company ended up facing an astonishing 587 court challenges over its patents. Competitors literally tried everything to break his monopoly. Yet, remarkably, despite all 587 challenges dragging them through the legal mud over the years, they never lost a single case that went to a final trial stage. His claim held absolutely firm.
Part 3. Beyond the Telephone, the True Depths of Genius.
Now remember, the telephone was just the tip of the iceberg. If someone asked you what his greatest achievement was, you'd naturally say the telephone, right? Given how it completely reshaped human civilization. But shortly before his death, Bell told a reporter that his proudest creation was something entirely different, something that sounded like pure science fiction at the time.
He was actually talking about the photophone. The photophone is absolutely fascinating because it transmitted sound on a beam of light way back in 1880. It's almost hard to wrap your head around, but by doing this, he essentially conceptualized the foundation for the fiber optic communication systems that you're probably using to stream this very explainer right now. His vision was literally a full century ahead of its time.
His mind simply never stopped inventing across wildly diverse fields.
He developed an early metal detector in a frantic attempt to locate an assassin's bullet inside U.S. President James Garfield. He designed the HD-4 hydrofoil, setting a world marine speed record. He backed the Silver Dart aircraft, which made the first powered flight in Canada. He even worked on metal jackets designed to assist in artificial respiration. He wasn't just an inventor, he was a one-man innovation hub.
Part 4. Heredity and Controversy. The Complicated Legacy.
To truly understand the whole man, we have to impartially look at a highly complex and controversial aspect of his life. A central part of his legacy is oralism. Bell strongly championed the oralist method, the belief that deaf individuals should learn to speak and read lips to integrate into wider society, and he actively discouraged the use of sign language. It's a stance for which he faced and absolutely continues to face significant criticism from the deaf community, who argue it suppresses their natural language and ignores their distinct culture.
His deep dive into the emerging science of heredity is equally debated. His data analysis in an 1883 paper led him to fear the creation of a deaf variety of the human race due to higher deaf rates among certain populations. But historically, it presents a bit of a paradox. While he held these fears based on his data interpretations, he strictly refused to support public policies limiting deaf rights. He explicitly opposed marriage bans and sterilization, policies which, unfortunately, were often championed by others at the time.
Still, his involvement in these movements ran deep. He lent his immense prestige to early eugenics organizations, even serving as a chairman at the Eugenics Records Office. He also endowed $25,000 to promote teaching speech to the deaf and pushed for integrating them into mainstream classrooms. Ultimately, he leaves us with a deeply complicated legacy, fundamentally tied to the societal views of his era that continue to spark intense debate today.
Part 5. A Silenced Continent. The End of an Era.
Let's wrap up this explainer by looking at his final days at his beloved estate in Nova Scotia during the summer of 1922. At his funeral, guests didn't mourn in darkness. Following his wife Mabel's specific request for no black clothing, they instead celebrated his vibrant life. A soloist sang these poignant words from a Robert Louis Stevenson requiem, "Glad did I live and gladly die." It perfectly captured Bell's restless, adventurous spirit as he was laid to rest under the wide and starry sky.
And then the world paid its respects in a truly breathtaking tribute. At exactly 6:25 p.m., every single telephone on the North American continent was silenced for 1 full minute. It was a massive, collective moment of absolute quiet to honor his passing, reflecting on the unbelievable gift he had given humanity. Millions of lines simply went dead, out of pure respect.
It leaves us with this final thought to reconsider. Alexander Graham Bell wasn't just the telephone guy. He was a relentless explorer of sound, of flight, and of the human condition. When a person's most famous creation obscures a lifetime of other incredible discoveries, it really makes you wonder, what other world-changing ideas in history are hiding just beneath the surface?